going on, guys? It is Aiden Hutchinson.
What's up, man? It's your boy Amon-Ra St. Brown.
What's going on, Coach Dan at Lions Talk Live and the Blue Crew? This is Ball Hawk, the Thornton of the Farmers of the Detroit Lions. Everybody make sure you help support the YouTube channel Lions Talk Live by clicking that like and subscribe button. Let's get it and go Detroit.
Greetings and salutations to everyone out there in YouTube land. This is Dan Skipper, offensive weapon for the Detroit Lions. Make sure you all help support Lions Talk Live, Coach Dan, by clicking on that like and subscribe button. Everybody. Woo!
All right, well, greetings and salutations, everybody out there in YouTube land. I am your host, once again, Dan Thornton, and I want to thank you all for joining us here today. Lions Talk Live. Hey, it's Good Friday. It's Friday, and the weekend is almost here, which means we're getting that much closer to the NFL Draft. You had Brad Holmes give a press conference yesterday, and shortly thereafter, Vegas put out some new thoughts and lines on the NFL Draft. Could it be that they're two related? Probably not, but hey, one can speculate. We're going to dive into all that and what it means, plus some things I think you can start to say might be true about the Detroit Lions going forward this upcoming season. Some of the draft and some of the pundits in the draft, here's what I'm going to say. We'll talk about it with Curt Steele at the bottom of the hour, so halfway during the show. But I think some of our anticipations for what the Lions might draft on the defensive side of the ball might not be accurate because there might be some changes to the Detroit Lions defense. We're going to get into that during the main topic today. We're going to talk about all the Vegas gate and everything in between. We're getting to the 5 headlines now. Real quick, though, before we get into all of that, if you haven't yet subscribed to Lions Talk Live, please consider doing so, making that push for 13,600 subs, and we are 62 subs away from it. So if you can help out with that, that would be most wonderful and excellent. Also, if you have half second of time, if you reach on down, hit that dang thumbs up button, that like button, hit all the buttons. We try to get every episode of the show between 200, 300, 400 or more thumbs up or likes. So if you have a half second, please reach on down and hit that thumbs up button with all the other buttons. Last but never least, if you are considering buying or selling property anywhere in the great state of Michigan, let alone the continental United States of America, go ahead and give me a call or shoot me a text. You now see the number on the screen, 269-998-2384. Give me a call. We'll have a quick conversation, see what I can do to help save you some time, money, effort, hustle, whatever you want to say. We'll do all that. In fact, I'm going to be showing a Dew Crew member over in Ypsilanti, a couple houses around 11:30 a.m. today. So once I get off air today, I'll be trekking on over to the grounds of Eastern Michigan University, I guess you could say, or Ypsilanti. So give me a call or shoot me a text. I've been in the business for over 30 years. I'll help save you time, money, et cetera, make it a whole lot less stressful for you. All right, with all that done, set out of the way, let's get this show rocking and a rolling and a going and get into the first segment, which, as you know, is 5 headlines now. Five glorious headlines now. Let's go. Brad Holmes reveals Lions plans for 2025 NFL Draft story by the Cold Wire. Cold Wire is not wrong with this one. I think Brad Holmes did give us at least some nuggets to kind of digest over the next 6 days. What might go down, what might happen in the NFL Draft. I think most of the world believes the Detroit Lions are going to make some kind of move. Whether it's trade forward, trade backwards, I don't know. We'll see what shakes out. But I do think Brad Holmes talked about that. He talked about a number of other aspects for the Detroit Lions. Talked about Zadarius Smith to a degree. Lions GM Brad Holmes says he will continue his philosophy of drafting the best player as always. But trading down could be an option in the right situation. Detroit currently holds the 28th overall pick. This is from Eric Woodyard of ESPN. He wrote that on Twitter or X, whatever you call it nowadays. What do you guys say, Dew Crew? Which do you think feels more likely for Brad Holmes? A trade up or a trade down? Would you be okay with either situation? I think there's a strong possibility that we'll see one of those two situations reveal itself a week from now. All right, next to the 5 headlines now. 2025 NFL Draft. Detroit Lions could be eyeing late round receiver steal. Corey Woods, MLive.com. Hey, we had someone from MLive yesterday hop on, and you know what? I'll just say this. I think MLive has as many people on the ground around the draft as probably any other entity out there in print media nowadays. You see Corey Woods on it. You see Ben Raven, amongst others over there. So here's what I'll say. I do think the Lions are going to target receiver. In my final mock draft, I'm basically done with it. I almost thought about running it today. I think the Duke Crew is going to be pretty happy with it. And not just from a receiver standpoint. We've talked about a couple different situations where potentially last week we mentioned there were a bunch of rumors, speculations. Dave Burkett said, hey, Matthew Golden could be the Detroit Lions 28th overall pick, which maybe that will lead to a Jameson Williams trade. And I really don't think Jameson Williams is getting traded. But what I think I do think is the Lions are going to be adding wide receiver. Me, myself, and you'll have to wait for the final Lions Talk Live mock draft to see who we've got the Lions taking. But when everything was said and done, during multiple different mocks, multiple different situations, looking at not just the stuff that I do, but other people, I do think the middle of the rounds, the Lions are going to address a wide receiver, giving what John Morton wants out of his offense, at least that we're anticipating, I should say, that he wants out of his offense. It makes a lot of sense. And there are, I would say, 4 ideal targets to fit that bill, and they're not going to cost first or second rounders, more than likely, to acquire one of those targets. I really hope the Lions get it because I think the Lions, they've got the potential. If they get the right guy here and that person is coached up, develops, whatever, gets into the offense, gets in the flow of things, this might be the craziest offense any of us have ever seen. And it's no disrespect to, say, the 49ers of the 80s, or I guess you even say the 49ers of Cowboys of the 90s, or the greatest show on turf with the Rams. But I think the Detroit Lions this year might just have the most unstoppable, potentially, offense that reasonably any of us have seen, or if nothing else, you could say it's a top 5 all time if everything shakes out. We're going to have to wait and see. But yes, if you guys got an idea on who the Lions might take for a receiver, late round pick, mid round pick, let me know your thoughts. I know we've talked about Dante Thornton before, Higgins before, and a couple other people, but let me know what you guys are thinking. I think there are a couple real persons of interest that none of us would be sad to see wear a Detroit Lions uniform. All right, went on too long with that one. Lions keeping former pass rusher in the dark for good reason. Story by Winston Cox of Fanside. This comes out of yesterday's presser. We all get it. When asked, Brad Holmes did say that Lions haven't talked recently to Zadarius Smith. The problem I have is recently could mean 5 minutes ago. Hey, we haven't talked recently. Or it could mean 10 hours ago. It means 5 years ago. I mean, it's a non-descriptive term that gives you a lot of leeway later on if you want to say, yeah, I met, I met an hour ago we hadn't talked to him. So a little Rodney Dangerfield there. But I do think one thing you took out of yesterday's presser is both sides are opening to reemerging. Lions, I think, will re-sign Zadarius Smith at some point, and this assumes that somebody else with another team, somebody doesn't get hurt at another team, and now that team is desperate to sign a veteran where maybe the price tag goes up a little bit more. I think Zadarius likes it here. We all get it. His girlfriend's from Detroit. I think he likes the situation with the team, the fact they're going to be competitive, have an opportunity to go win a Super Bowl, yada, yada, yada. There's a lot of layers why somebody at that point in their career would want to come here in Detroit. Me, myself, and if I was a betting person, I would say Zadarius Smith is going to be a Detroit Lion come next season. But what do you guys say, Duke Crew? I think most of you guys like him. Do you think he'll be here? Or do you think, hey, we're just going to move on from him and grab a couple of ends or rushers in the draft? All right, no calls yet, but Detroit Lions open to trade talks regarding first-round pick by Ben Raven of MLive.com. And again, we had MLive on yesterday, and Matthew came on yesterday, and thank you for that if he's watching. Ben Raven, you got Corey Woods all over the Detroit Lions, and I think Ben Raven's I think he's right yet in the regard that I have no doubt teams have already started establishing some conversations about, hey, if we wanted to make a trade with you at this spot or move up here or move back there, what are you thinking? That would be standard protocol, especially this late into the war room games. My anticipation is the Lions, and I know we've talked about this before, Lions have a great opportunity to make a trade back. Why is that? If one of the players of interest, let's just say a team who wants a fifth-year option on someone like Jackson Dart, the 28th pick, the 28th pick, the 29th pick, all those picks ending the first round, those are going to be ideal situations to get into. Why? Because you get the fifth-year option if you get that guy, and I do think there are going to be a couple players that teams will want to move up and get a fifth-year option on. I'm not going to reveal it yet, but we'll talk about it during the main topic of the day. I do think that goes into some of the Vegas odds that came out about it. And if I was going to guess, Detroit may make up to 2 to 3 trades in this upcoming draft. We'll see if that shakes out. All right, last of the 5 headlines now. Aiden Hutchinson completes rehab by Adam Levine of Pro Football Rumors. So we've been hearing more and more about this. I feel like it's been about 3 weeks now, maybe a little less, maybe a little bit more. But it's official now, according to Detroit Lions and according to Hutchinson himself. He says, hey, I'm fully done. The last little bit he had to get done this week. Lions medical staff said, hey, he's good to go. There are no restrictions on him. They do want to kind of ease him into things, it sounds like, going into the season. And I get that, man. Get into training camp, probably going to have him do a 70% workload first week, second week, 80% workload, third week, et cetera. Keep moving up by 10%. But any kind of questions if Aiden Hutchinson was going to be back and at a high level come the regular season, that seems to be put to rest. I even thought about putting this as the main topic of the day or the thumbnail or whatever. But I was like, I'm just not really into some yahoos getting after me on Good Friday saying, clickbait or whatever. I don't think it's clickbait, but hey, to each their own interpretation. What we can say is this is a good sign for the Detroit Lions because if Aiden Hutchinson isn't the most dominant player on the team, he's at least on the short list of most dominant players on the team. And we get it. This team's got a ton of dominant players, whether you want to say, St. Brown, Goff, Laporta, whoever you want to say. He's one of the stars and faces of the franchise, and he is one of the generational pass rushing ends that we have in the NFL right now. He's in the short list. I think we can all agree on top 10, top 5 edge rushers in the NFL. Having him back alone, if you could have had him back for the playoffs last year, into the regular season, into the playoffs, I'd say, if he was 100%, there's a far better likely opportunity the Lions could have beat the Washington Commanders. It didn't happen, so we can move on from it. But with Hutchinson back, he makes everybody on that side of the ball that much better. And if he's not going to have any restrictions, what seems clear at this point, he's not going to have anything holding him back. He's going to be able to unleash the beast on that other team. And if we hit on a couple picks for the defensive line, edge or whatever it may be, then I think the Lions defense really could make a jump next year. Remember, this unit, before all the injuries happened, to Hutchinson and Lee McNeil and everybody else you want to list, they were one of the top 5 defenses in the NFL. And now you're going to add another year of development to some of these younger players, a couple more players coming into the draft. Maybe Zadarius Smith gets thrown into that mix too. I think this Lions D could be number 3, 2, or whatever in the NFL. And I do suspect, we'll talk about it with Curt Steele when he's on the air today, but I do think there's growing evidence what type of defense the Lions are going to have. And yes, I do think that's going to affect the NFL draft. I think you're starting to see some signs, or have been seeing some signs for maybe a month or so now with some of their free agent signings. I think they're prepping for it, and we'll dive into it. All right, with all that done, set out of the way, let's get over to the main topic of the day. Main topic of the day, Vegas thinks the Lions are going to be aggressive. Vegas thinks the Lions are going to make trades. Vegas thinks they make a whole lot of money being right and not a lot of money being wrong. So with the world's leader in betting, putting money on the lines on I should say lines, not Lions, they think that Lions are going to make 2 or more trades, and I guess you can get this at sports books or whatever these things are called, but you can go ahead and place bets on it. Right now, I've offered you my thoughts earlier in the 5 headlines. Now, I think the Lions are going to make 2 or more trades. And some of that is based on what Vegas is saying. Some of it is based on what Brad Holmes said yesterday during his presser. Then you look at the history for Brad Holmes. Can you name the last time he made 0 trades? It doesn't happen that often. And I simply think the Lions, one, are in a very ideal situation at the end of the first round to get an offer or 2 to move on back in the second round for their first round pick. That's one. The other part is you look at the strength of this draft. If I was to ask the Duke crew right now, how many elite players, no brain players are there that are at the top of the list? And I'm going to just say from my selfish opinion, I think there's maybe 4 guys, 5 guys, and I know we've talked about this before, that all of us could say, hey, that guy is generational, and you can throw the Carters out there, you can throw the Wards out there, Hunter, After those three, though, maybe Mason Graham, you could say is, man, that guy's just elite. Any draft, that guy's going in the top or argument for a top 5 pick. After that, I think it's where it gets interesting in this draft. You have a ton of guys that you could say, man, they could go number 7 or 8 or number 60. And that's kind of where I'm going with things. There's just that kind of disparity between all of them. That's why when the situation arose, I want to say a week ago, we heard suggestions from Ian Rappaport, amongst others, that perhaps the Lions could trade up to number 9. And I don't think it would cost as much as it would in a normal year. Why is that? Everything we just mentioned. The gap between number 8 and number 58 just isn't that wide in this year's draft. There's a ton of mid-level talent. And the differences between those guys are really just what are your preferences for a team? That's why I think Vegas is spot on. I think you're going to see the Lions make 2 to 3 trades. And the other part of it is, I said I would talk about this during the main topic, so I will. I do think you're going to see the Lions run a hybrid defense. I was talking to somebody yesterday. I think I told you guys I had to go do a bunch of showings and digging around and stuff like that. I had to go all the way up to Hudsonville. For those who know, that's basically Grand Rapids, Michigan. And on the way up there, I had some time to kill because of all the traffic on 131. So I talked to a couple friends. One of my friends in Detroit media says they do believe, talking to Detroit Lions persons, that yes, the Lions are not going to run a 4-3 defense this year. They're going to see a stagnated defense, which means they're going to run at times a 5 down lineman front, 2 linebackers, and other times they're going to run with 5 linebackers or edges, what do you want to say, big, tall guys that can run around and get after the quarterback. They're not going to play a stand-pat defense. You're going to see basically an amoeba defense. Most of you, I shouldn't say most of you, but some of you may know that term from Jerry Tarkanian in basketball in the 80s and 90s, what the amoeba defense was, and that's what they're anticipating out of Kelvin Sheppard. Kelvin Sheppard, as you all know, is a former linebacker, and his ideas on defense are a little bit different, it does appear, than Aaron Glenn's. Lions aren't going to play as much man-to-man, is what I'm being told. And we all get it during Glenn. The Lions played more man-to-man coverage than anybody else, played more 4-down linemen than anybody else, but they are convinced, and this, I'm going by what they have to say, but if you believe them, what they have to say at face value, I think you then go and analyze what the Lions have done this offseason as far as signings. I think you're seeing a lot of corroborating evidence. How many linebackers have we signed this offseason? About a gajillion. And the reason why is I think the Lions are trying to tool this defense to be different. That's why when people say there's no chance the Lions were going to take a Mike Green or Jair Campbell or James Pierce Jr., I think we might have to reevaluate that before next Thursday. Brad Holmes gave us some evidence yesterday, and now there's more and more corroborating evidence that you look at the cornerbacks the Lions have signed, they're not predominantly man-heavy corners. They're more zone-heavy. Why would you play more zone? Try to eat up spaces if you don't have as much speed, and you're probably using more of a hybrid defense to get after the quarterback. I think we're all probably going to see some changes out of Kelvin Sheppard's defense this year, and I think that's going to be reflective in this year's draft. It's why I am now leaning towards, and you'll see it this weekend in the final Lions Talk Live mock draft, the 3.0 or whatever you want to call it. I think there's a growing opportunity for the Lions to get non-traditional ends that we've been accustomed to these last 4 years. I think there's a better opportunity for, like I said, a Mike Green, a James Pierce Jr., Campbell, or whoever else you want to throw on that list. And I do think you're going to see the Lions make 2 or 3 moves down. I also think you're going to see the Lions double down on the edge department / linebacker department. So we have seen in times with Aaron Glenn's defenses in the past, we did see Barnes rushing the quarterback, even Jack Campbell rushing the quarterback, and I think you're going to see more of that this year. All right, I probably went on to this subject a little bit too long, but let me know what you guys thought. If you had a bet right now, which I'm not encouraging betting, by the way, if you had a guess right now, maybe that's a better way to word it, do you think the Lions make 0 trades, 1, 2, 3, 4 trades, whatever it is? Throw it in the comments section. You've heard me talk. I think we're going to make 2 or more, and I think we're going to try to smash all of our draft picks basically between the 3rd and 4th rounds. I think their later round picks might be gonzo. I think our first round pick might be gonzo, but That's what I have to say. What do you have to say? We got about 10 minutes until Curt the Hitman Steele drops a big elbow on the Do Crew comments section. So, hey, let's get over to the top of the screen. Let me scroll to the top and get this show rocking and rolling and going. Michael D, greetings, salutations, coach and Do Crew. One pride, exclamation points. And back at you, Michael. Bo, what do you got? Good morning, Do Crew. Let me make this perfectly clear. Woo! And just for you, let's give you a 1, 2, and why not how about a 3? Sorry, I had to take a moment to scroll through the screen. All right, the Hunter, what do you got? With the 28th pick, the Detroit Lions select Nick Scorton, edge from Texas A&M. That could be. It could be. I've offered you guys some thoughts to chew on, today and over the weekend, but I do think the Lions are going to be adjusting their defense. I'd take Nick Scorton in a heartbeat, though. I want to be clear on that. Detroit D, greetings, salutations to the entire Do Crew, and same to you, my friend. May it be a great Good Friday for you. Drake, good morning, all. Brad has a lot to say yesterday. Yes, he did have a lot to say. Brent, good morning. Dan, the Do Crew, Lions Talk Live, and woo, coffee. Oh, yeah, I'll take that. And yes, I don't drink coffee, but if it's woo-woo coffee, maybe I would. Clark, yo. After listening to Brad's press conference, we are trading. Up or down is the only question. And I think it just comes down to value. Whatever's there at that point. I don't want to give too many spoilers towards the final Lions Talk Live mock draft, but I will say this. I think you've got a trade partner, as much as maybe people don't want to hear it. I think you got one with the Jets. I think you got one with the Saints. I think you got one with Minnesota and Atlanta. Those would probably be my most likely trade up scenario teams. Trade back, I could see, the Cleveland Browns, because I think they're going to be quarterback starving and want to maybe get someone with a fifth-year option. I could see the Philadelphia Eagles trading up from 32 to 28 if the right player falls there. And yes, James Pierce Jr. could be that player, amongst others, though, to be honest. Maybe if the Saints or Jets don't get a quarterback in the 7th or whatever it is, 9th picks, I can see them wanting to trade back in the first round to maybe get Jackson Dart or somebody else with a fifth-year option. All right, any more? Good morning, Coach Dan of the Do Crew. What a team. What a podcast. What time be a Lions fan. Woo! And back at you, Henry. Hopefully it's a good morning. Trim Reaper, good morning, Coach Dan of the Do Crew. Woo! And same to you. Big Eddie, greetings, salutations. I agree that Brad loves him some draft trades. I hope we move up. I get it. It's sexy when you move up. Everybody loves it, man. The adrenaline's pumping. Man, who are we going to take? Whatever. I like all that. Plus, there's probably more familiarity with the first round selections than there is the second or third round picks. Me, myself, and I, though, I do think it's more likely we trade back because I think, again, referencing this particular draft, every draft's different. But what is this draft heavy in? It's heavy in a lot of the positions the Lions need. And one could argue the vast majority of the second rounders are going to have the same values as the vast majority of first rounders. So, if you can get 2 or 3 of those guys instead of 1 or 2 of those guys, maybe you do. Trey, what's good, everybody? Question mark. We will be trading, and I got the feeling Z will be back. But after the draft and late in training camps, thoughts? Yeah, I got basically that same impression. I think you're spot on with that, Trey. I think Za'Darius, we get it, man. He's been through enough camps. There's probably not a whole lot of value there for him. Plus, at his age, you want to keep those legs, you want to keep those knees, the midsection, all as fresh as he can. If he's going to re-sign with us, my anticipation is it'd be like week 2 of training camp or 3, something like that. Maybe even preseason games. Just greetings, sanitation, Do Crew. Less than a week to go. Coach, give us all a pre-draft. Woo! Man, we are wooing it up in here today. How about this? A 1, 2, and a 3? And will you go? Trim River, did you know that diarrhea is hereditary? Yeah, it runs in the genes. How about that, my friend? How about that? Johnny L, good morning, all. Same to you. Stephanie, good morning, boys. Exclamation point. I think if Sanders is drafted before the Saints select, then we have a very good chance, to trade him to number 9. I agree with that 100%. I think the only team that I can readily think of maybe take him, I guess we could always say maybe the New York Giants do. Maybe the Cleveland Browns do. I just think there is potential. Shador Sanders could be this year's Aaron Rodgers. I could see him going number 2 or 3. I could see him going number 7 or 9. I could also see him going in the second round. Or maybe late in the first round if he does fall like that. then maybe that's where the Lions draft pick number 28 really skyrockets in value because, like I said, if Cleveland doesn't take him in the number 2 overall pick, they're probably trying to trade back in the first round if he slides that far. I'm just not sure if he will. I like the kid a lot. I can also get why maybe somebody has a raised eyebrow on him, but I like the kid. Samir, good morning, Duke Crew, and back at you. Hopefully it's a phenomenal start to your day. France, I can see us trading up 70 water, but number 9 feels as if it would be costly. Normally I would say yes, France, but this year, again, referencing how you got, I think, 5 guys at the front, maybe 4 that, yeah, they're clearly the best ones. And then after that, it's like everybody from, what do you want to say, for the most part, number 7 or 8 until 60, there's not that big a discrepancy between them. And that's why I can see a lot of the guys flipping and flopping around. Maybe it wouldn't cost as much to move up as in past years. Bo, 70, that would be so Brad? Yeah, 100% if we trade up like that. So, Susan Scott, what do you got? Good morning. It's my belief that we are going to trade out of the first round. This draft is deep. I can see it happening. And here's my thought. If we trade back, we get, a second rounder and maybe a third rounder, or maybe, I don't know, maybe somehow you pull off 2 second rounders. That would work for me. Again, referencing the depth of the draft. Frank, excuse me. What up, Doe Eastside? Woo! Skip Green Bay, Minnesota, Bears, Philly, go Lions. I like it all the above. I like go Lions 100%. Dave, happy Good Friday to all those who celebrate it. Enjoy it indeed. Johnny L, I don't care where we pick. Just get us a beast on edge. I think there's, and I know a bunch of you guys have brought up like Landon Jackson and Ivy and, so many other guys. I think there's clearly some guys that are more polished or developed, I guess you could say, that could be round 1 targets of the Detroit Lions. But I also think there's a lot of round 2, 3, even 4 guys this year that, yes, you might have to invest a season in them to get them developed. Who knows, maybe less. But they've got some skills. They got some abilities. Frank Tank thought it was crazy. Listen to Brad Holmes' press conference yesterday, and all the press had to do is ask the same questions they have been asking for the last 4 years. Go Lions. Yeah, you do see a lot of similarity. I mean, there are some people in the press, journalists, that come up with new stuff. There are a lot of times they just kick the same can and literally will ask the same question the guy just before asked. And that, if you're on the other side of it, having to answer the questions, it gets old. Quentin, greetings, salutations all. I think we'll move up to 20 or so and get Campbell or James Pierce Jr. Green going to be gone by then. Yeah, I think so. I think Mike Green, and who knows, maybe we'll find out otherwise. I think he's going to go between 12 and maybe 16, somewhere in that range. As far as Junior, man, I mean, I do think he is top 10 talent, but I think there's enough red flags on him where maybe he goes in the 20s, 30s, maybe even the second round. And then Campbell, I don't know, man. I would say probably between 16 and 28, somewhere in that spot. All right, Brent, Mason Graham at 9, question mark. I would be fine with that. I think a lot of Lions fans would be fine with that. And, we talked about guys who could cut or last year here with Detroit yesterday. I think, DJ Reader probably Lions select Graham or somebody like that in the early rounds. You probably get the idea that DJ Reader's, on his final season here in Detroit. All right, 5 Figures Friday. This year's draft appears to be deep at edge, defensive tackle, wide receiver, and O-line. All things we need. Yeah, it's almost like Brad Holmes planned it for this year's draft. I think the Lions are going to walk out with 5 draft picks, or at least right around there, which means we've traded a few picks. I think we might even trade some of next year's picks for a couple select guys. They're not like first, second, and third round picks, but I think Brad Holmes is probably going to be active during this next week's draft. Frank the Tank, Brad Holmes told y'all yesterday they're not looking for a pass rusher as much as you all think. They are no rookie. It's going to outplay Levi, Pascal, Wingo, Martin, Muhammad, go Lions. I think a lot of times, to your point, Frank, Muhammad doesn't get enough respect, I think, for what he did last year and how much he developed. Wingo, I think, is going to be one of those bigger surprises, year 2 jumps. Pascal, we'll see on him, man. I like the kid. I just don't know if he's got that motor, as far as the speed. Martin, I like, at least I'm hopeful on. Maybe that's how I should word it. And then Levi, I do think could play the big end role. He played it some last year. I think he might play it more this year. All right. Let's see. So about Trader Holmes will strike again. I think you're probably right. Frank Tank, you think Kansas City Chiefs fans care about the draft as much as we all do? Hex no, they are winners, and that's where we need to take our Detroit Lions to the top. I'll go with that. All right, guys, it is about that time to bring forth the rhythm and rhyme and bring on over the special guest of the day. You love him. You know him. You probably say a few prayers to him. Let's go over and get the hitman, Curt Steele. Hitman, it is a beautiful day in the neighborhood. We are 6 days away from the NFL draft. Are you ready for it?
Oh yeah, get my popcorn like Brad Holmes told me yesterday. Get your popcorn ready and get ready for the draft.
I'm getting the industrial size hot sauce ready. I'm going to be putting it all over everything as I sit back and eat it and watch the draft. But Vegas has come out with some odds and does anticipate the Lions will make 2 or more trades for those who pay attention to this. If you had to guess right now, how many trades do you think the Detroit Lions make during the draft?
Probably, I would say +3, 2.5. Was that, you play the odds, so I say 2.5, which means about 3.
Okay. Before you came on, I was talking about a little bit. It seems like there's growing evidence Lions defense might be a little bit different than it was with Aaron Glenn. Sounds like we might play more zone, might use more of a hybrid or amoeba style defense, not on every down, but on like second and long, third and long, where we put more linebackers on the field, more speed on the field. Do you think there's any validity to that through what you're seeing with the cornerback signings, all the gajillion linebackers we signed? And would that, if it's true, how much would you think that will affect our draft status as far as who we target?
Okay. I don't think it's going to change the type of edge player that we're drafting. I still don't get it. You look at the guys that we re-signed, they're all the guys that still fit in Aaron Glenn's type of system. They're all still all 4-3 guys, especially the guys up front. Linebackers, yes, you can have, and we've signed a lot of linebackers. So you can have that. Yes. I get what you're saying. Maybe that part. I think we play more zone on the back end. I think the hybrid is going to be more on the back end than it is the front end of the defense. That's just me. That's what I'm seeing. I'm looking at the evidence. Eyes don't lie. You know what I'm saying? You see, re-signing a guy, Levi Onwuzurike. You look at him, what he has. You look at the guys that we already have on the roster that are returning. I'm not seeing a lot of change there in the front of the defense, right? I'm seeing the change on the back end where you're seeing a lot of smaller, faster cornerbacks. I can see, and these guys are versatile. Most of these guys can play zone and man. So that's where I'm thinking the change is going to be on the back end, not probably more likely the front end. You bring back a guy like Derek Barnes, who he can play hybrid. He can rush the passer, and he can play the same linebacker position. I know everyone's getting all excited and think we're going to draft a guy like JPJ or the young man Mike Green or all this. I'm telling you, I'm still not seeing it. If we draft an edge, it's going to be a guy like Shamar Stewart or a guy that's like his size. I still don't see it. People are, and I'm not saying that because you're looking at these guys, right? You have to be able to play a 3. Those guys fit in a 3-4 scheme. That's it. They don't fit in a 4-3 scheme. And if you're playing a hybrid scheme, you're playing both. And I just don't see it in the front of the defense. I think that the way that and people, I don't know if you guys just forgot that Kelvin Shepard was the pass rush coordinator. So he wants the players that he had, and those were the players that had the most successes when was the not last year but the prior year where they had all that getting all the pressure, getting all the sacks from Aiden Hutchinson and the group. They had more sacks the prior year than they had last year, and that's when Shep was the rush game coordinator, the pass rush coordinator. So I'm looking at this. I believe they're going to move up, but they're going to move up for a guy it's not going to be for the guy that you think it is. It may be the young man Williams out of Georgia if he falls. because he fits that. He's about 6'4", about 265,
He is.
around that that height and frame, and we need to trade up to keep him away from keep him away from Philly because they have all the Georgia defensive linemen on their roster, so we think we need to get one in Detroit. So that's the guy I'm thinking that the Lions may be targeting in the first round of the draft. They can move up.
We were talking during the 5 headlines now that at some point during the draft, you've heard Campbell talk about, hey, we want to add a little bit of youth to the wide receiver room. Excuse me. You've heard some other people talk about it. I personally don't think there's any chance Jameson Williams gets traded. Been wrong before. But are there any wide receivers, mid-rounds, later round picks that you've identified could be a potential fit for the Detroit Lions and John Morton's offense?
The one guy I did kind of look at, and I'm not sure he's a fit for the. I think he's a fit for the Lions, and that's the Isaac Tisla out of Arkansas.
Yeah.
Top 30 visit guy, big, fast, and he can play special teams. So that's what I will look. A guy who can kind of line up and take the top off the defense. He doesn't have great like quickness off the line, but once he gets going, he can burn it down the field. So great RAS score, and he's a good all around because they want all around players on the Lions. They just don't want one trick ponies, and they want guys who can play multiple positions. He's a big slot guy, but he, like I said, he can burn down the field. And the Lions have brought in, bringing him in on the top 30 and looking at his athletic ability. I think that may be a guy that they may target in that late, mid to late round, probably the early part of day 3, or the late part. Probably the top of the 4th round.
When you watch, say, national media do their mocks and predict whoever the Lions are going to take or whatever it may be, trade or whatever, what do you think they get wrong the most about the Detroit Lions and when they make selections for the team?
Mocking 3-4 linebackers as edge rushers to the Lions. That's the thing that pisses. Here's my thing. I've watched Brad Holmes in BDGM since 2021. And he has never drafted a guy like that to the Lions. He's never drafted a guy that is a primary edge rusher at 6'4" and 240 pounds. Never. The closest guy he drafted at that position, he talked about it the other day in his presser, was Derek Barnes. But Derek Barnes was learning how to play linebacker, coming from edge to linebacker, not going from a linebacker to edge. It was edge to linebacker, and in that transition, he thought he would be a good fit for the Lions to play linebacker, not edge rusher. So I don't get where everyone's in this. Oh, we're gonna get this guy, man. We're gonna get JPJ. We're gonna get Mike Green with a kid out of Florida State. I'm like, what? Here's my thing, and what's his name? Mel Kiper.
Yeah.
He came out with a pick, and he picked the kid out of Florida State. And then the next draft, when he did it, he picked a guy that was more a 4-3 edge rusher that the Lions would fit the scheme. And I was like, Jesus, he must have woke up, because I think that's the thing that really irritates me the most is that, like, do you not look at the tendencies of the GM? Look at the tendencies of Brad Holmes. You know the type of players that he drafts. You look at the players he's re-signed. He re-signed Marcus Davenport, for heaven's sakes. What do you think? I don't understand. It's always going to be a big switch. Oh my God! Like, I don't see it. I just don't see it.
When you look at the Lions, there's always, we talked about in yesterday's show, there's always winners, there's always losers when it comes to a draft. There's going to be people that I'm sure on the Lions team that are sitting there sweating with every selection because is that guy at my position? If you had to name 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever you want to name, players that are going to be sweating the most who are current Detroit Lions come next week's draft, who do you think is under the most pressure?
Ooh, that's a good question. Who do I see? Probably Graham Glasgow.
Yeah. His
performance last year was lacking. This was. And they want to get younger on that offense. They want to get younger. They already started with Mahogany last year, and possibly Manu, but and there's a lot of nice interior offensive lines in this guard. I mean, in this draft, all up and down the board, guys that can play, the hybrid guys that can play all three interior offensive positions. They can play both the center, both guards and center. So that's going to be the big thing for me. You looking at him, looking at that person, that veteran that could be sweating. It's got to be Graham Glasgow.
You know, we get that the Lions, Brad Holmes is taking guys that, you know, need time to develop. Every team does. Brad just seems to target him a little bit more with the Lions organization. We've all talked about, hey, if he took a couple seasons to get right, just couldn't stay healthy. We talked about Derek Barnes took a couple seasons to learn how to play his position as, you know, on the Lions defense. And then when he hit, he did pretty well. Do you think there's any chance, because he might be the one bust. Do you think there's any chance that Broderick Martin salvages his career and at the end of next year, we're all looking back and go, wow, that was a great pick, or is he on out of here?
I was just thinking about that. I was like, oh, I forgot one guy. I forgot Broderick Martin need to be on the hot seat. There is a chance. I said this the other day on our show that next spring we're watching Broderick Martin play spring football in the UFL. That's just the way I'm looking at it right now. Yeah. He hasn't developed. He's making the same mistakes. His pad level's still off. And I'm not, and he had one of the best defensive line coaches in the league last year, and Terrell Williams, and he's going to get another great defensive line coach, and Rodgers this year. If he can't do something in camp this year, I just don't see him spending the full season with Detroit. I don't see it.
Yeah, especially since I think most of us are anticipating the Lions are going to add, especially if the right guy falls to him, some interior defensive tackle position. Man, Martin's got all the promise, man, but it's just not clicking for whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe they can move him to gunner or something on special teams. But all right, so moving on from Broderick. If there was one spot in the NFL draft that you think Lions fans would be most surprised by the team drafting early, what do you think it would be?
Ooh. I mean, besides the obvious quarterback, that would be the shock of the century if the Lions drafted a quarterback. Probably if they took a safety in the first round, that would be kind of shocking. Just because of the fact that you have probably the best safety duo in the actual NFL with Branch and Joseph back there. Because individually they play good ball, but together they play phenomenal ball together. And that's just the thing. They play phenomenal when they're playing next to each other. You look at that first part of the season last year, they play out of this world. Both, if they could have played the entire season next to each other back there, and instead of having moving Branch down into the slot, we could have had a pair of all-pro safeties, not just one of them.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the combination there, but I mean, I guess if you go after, gosh, I don't know, man. One of the top safeties in there, you could play a 3 safety system, sort of like you did with Iffy. But that also means probably, I guess, Branch is in the slot.
I mean, but how much did we play at 3? Couldn't keep his ass on the field, man. If he just got hurt. I do like the adage of having playing 3 safeties. I like the because you can just kind of move Branch all around where he likes to play. You can kind of let him kind of freelance back there, but I like Iffy next to Kirby for some reason. I just like the way they communicate, the way they, and they both can go up and down within the system as far as both can play in the box, both can kind of feed off each other when they're both in a lineup together, playing next to each other. So yeah, I like them together. That will be a surprise for me. Not saying that it can never happen, just because Brad Holmes said he doesn't draft for need. Best player available. If that best player available is on the board and it's a generational type talent, the guy's going to be in Detroit. So,
Well, I think we're all going to be sitting back watching in the draft and seeing where the Lions go. I think we can all agree Brad Holmes has got his agenda, his plan, and whatever falls to us, he's going to feel like if I take this guy, it's the right spot for the Lions and not a position of need. Curt Steele, hey, I want to thank you for coming on the show as always. Why don't you go ahead and give yourself a shout out to everybody where they can find you, your awesome work, and how to help support your channel.
All right, you can find me on the Boss of Ball Out podcast. No live show today. I'm doing some content for LNU today, so it'll be out later. So check it out, man. Y'all know April is Autism Awareness Month. Rocking my Fight Like a Lion shirt from my son. Has the Autism Awareness ribbon on it, man. So supporting my son this month, man. Well, supporting him always, but promoting autism awareness all the month of April. So make sure you look at your local Autism Society chapters and make a difference. Go see if you can participate or walk or run or just donate some time, man. Those and autism is as big in the news right now, man. And don't believe everything you hear about the disorder of autism, because it's not a disease, it's a disorder. So but you can check me out over there on the Boss Up Ball Out podcast, man. So check me out, me and my man Coach Jones and the Wolver Lion and LL Cool Toys, man. So thank you so much for letting me come on your platform, man, and be a part of the Lions Talk Live. And shout out to the Do Crew, man, because they come and hang out with me over there on the Boss Up Ball Out channel all the time. So thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
No worries, man. One of these days we got to get you on in time for the. We gotta get a couple people and do the game show, man.
I'm down, man. Just let me know when.
All right, I will bust out the jacket, the hair, and the glasses and get ready. Maybe even get some note cards, and whatever. But all right, Curt Steele, you go have a great Friday. Go enjoy it. And again, as always, thank you for hopping on the show, man.
No problem, man. Thanks, man. Later, Do Crew. See you guys later.
We'll see you then. All right, guys, I'm going to end it up a little bit out of here early just so I can get ready for my jaunt on over to Ypsilanti to show a Do Crew member some houses. So, hey, if there's breaking news later today and I'm back from the road, I'll get it over to you as quick as possible. If you would be so kind before checking on out, hit that thumbs up button, hit that like button, hit all the buttons. Be a good human being. Do something kind for someone you don't know. And you know what? We'll see you all on the next Lions Talk Live. Take care, everybody. Be great to each other.
Excuse me, sir, would you... Donations to Reverend Moon? Jews for Jesus?
Read about Jehovah's Witness? How about Buddhism?
Help Jerry's kids? Oh, yeah. Scientology?
Or nuclear power?